Well, hello and welcome to the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I am Dave Riccio here along with John Riggle. Together we are putting you in the know when it comes to your car. We work here at Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair in Tempe, Arizona. And it's Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair because we do both.
Yeah.
We literally have two buildings. We have technicians that are general repair technicians. We have technicians that are transmission people.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to bring up is, we talk about why do transmissions fail. We've done that before, but one thing we haven't talked about is glycol contamination.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is that all about?
Yeah, that's when we have a breach between the cooling system and the transmission. So most of our automatic transmissions are actually cooled using the cooling system in the car. So we'll have a cooler that's one way or another is plumbed into the cooling system. It may be built in as part of the radiator. And if that cooler should fail, we have the possibility of exchanging transmission fluid. We can get glycol into the transmission, or we can get transmission fluid into the cooling system. Now, transmission fluid in the cooling system is usually pretty easy to spot.
Right.
The coolant will come up with this milky...
strawberry milkshake.
Yeah, strawberry milkshake is exactly what it looks like. But we can have the glycol go the other way and cause transmission damage, and that is usually something, in extreme cases, we can see it. It'll look like a milkshake in the transmission, but a lot of times we can have small amounts of coolant that get into the transmission and will destroy the clutches. When the temperature gets high enough, we'll actually boil that. Coolant will boil because it's not under pressure like it is in the cooling system. If that gets in behind the clutch plates in the adhesive for the clutch material, it will delaminate the clutch material in the clutches. And at that point, you're looking at an overhaul. You're going to do an overhaul.
Another transmission. That's a painful conversation. I'm trying to think of the last one that we had. We had the Mini Cooper. That lady came in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that Mini Cooper only had 80,000 miles on it. And she came to me in tears. She left the dealership. They gave her a quote for $13,000.
Right.
Which was a lot of money.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. That one had an exchanger on it. So sometimes it's the transmission cooler is a section of the radiator.
Yeah.
So the transmission cooler is housed in the radiator, so it's got engine coolant all around it. Mm-hmm. Inside the transmission cooler portion, there's transmission fluid in there. And so that's one way they fail. But an exchanger is just a little canister-looking thing bolted on top of the transmission generally.
Yeah.
And it's got transmission fluid running through it. At the same time, it's got engine cooling running around that. Mm-hmm. And so on the Mini Cooper, that's what failed. And so we got engine coolant into the transmission.
Yeah.
And once it gets in and people say, well, can you just flush it out? Will my transmission be okay? I have not seen that work yet.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Because like you say, what happens is once you have water in the transmission, when the clutch closes, there's a lot of heat. You remember in the old days we used to take wallpaper off with steam?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Delaminated the wallpaper, pulled the glue apart.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
The same thing is when that clutch closes, there's a tremendous amount of heat right there. And so you get a little bit of steam right there, and that pulls the glues off that adhere the composite or the essentially paper material to the steel discs.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens. So a lot of times there's no turning back. There are repeat offenders. So there are some vehicles that do this over and over again. And I think of like the Nissan Xterra, Nissan Pathfinder.
All the RE5s.
RE5s.
RE5s in the trucks.
And Solomon, who's sitting over there, he's got a RE5 in his 2007 Pathfinder. Yeah. And that he got it from a customer who didn't want to fix it. It was actually a kid I went to high school with, and he had glycol in his transmission. He goes, I don't want to fix it.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll buy it from you. I'll fix it.
Yeah.
But so that's a common one. So some of those, if you do a little research on your car, you can go in and learn about, put your year, make, and model, and you can see if there's any catastrophic pattern failures that you can head off before it gets expensive.
Yeah, so I test all of the Nissan RE5s that come through here automatically when that car comes in for any kind of transmission complaint. One of the tests that I do is a glycol contamination test. It's a simple test tube. I put a little sample of the fluid in there, add a couple of chemicals, shake it, heat it. If it turns purple, we've got glycol in the transmission. And I do all the RE5s. I do all the Volvos. Because those are the ones
big
that are
offenders.
It can happen to any car, so we have to kind of watch for that. We look when we pull the transmissions apart. Sometimes we see rust in the transmission. We'll see a slimy stuff in the bottom of the pan.
Yeah.
All indications that
All the seals get kind of weird and gooey.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that I see going on. But I think this point could be a benefit, not only because here we're talking about glycol or coolant contamination inside the transmission, and that happens. But as I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, if you can, I mean, you don't want to be an automotive hypochondriac, and that's a person that always thinks there's something wrong with their car,
Right.
when there's nothing wrong with their car. So you can go overboard on this, but if you have a little discipline, you can pull up your car and you can see what pattern failures there are. So in the case of the RE5s and the Nissan, the savvy Nissan owners will come to me and say, "Hey, will you install a transmission cooler in my car and bypass the radiator?"
Yeah.
I say, "Sure,
Yeah,
that's really
yeah.
smart. You're going to save yourself a lot of money,
And
thousands of dollars."
For a transmission shop, you got to make sure you got a transmission shop that realizes it's a possibility, because you don't want to rebuild a transmission, put the thing
And
for
have a
brand new
repeat failure.
transmission and not recognize that this thing had glycol contamination in it, because you'll cook another transmission. So it's important to know that it's a possibility and that it's there.
And I ran into that with a Nissan before, where I bought it from this particular one. I bought out. We installed somebody else's transmission. They sent a radiator with it.
Uh-huh.
So the radiator showed up, transmission showed up. Thing went out 6 months, came back with glycol contamination.
Oh, yeah, that
And
hurts.
that radiator replaced failed. So after that, I said, you know what? No longer am I doing that. I'm just skipping the radiator altogether. We're in Arizona, so the radiator does a couple things. It heats the transmission
Warm
when it's
yeah.
cold.
Mhm.
Arizona, not a problem. Not at least in Tempe, Arizona.
Yeah.
So it heats the fluid, but also cools it. So we just bypass it. We eliminate any possibility of coolant contamination.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about the Nissans. My theory is that the pressure in the cooling system is too high and creates a rupture in the radiator. But I got nothing to back that up. That's just my theory.
I've heard guys talk about pressure spikes coming back from the front pump and cracking the tubes for the cooler. I don't know. I've never seen absolute proof on it.
But
But
what's
it is
interesting-
unusual. It only happens to certain ones.
Yeah, but what's interesting is like we got the Infiniti J30, same transmission.
Yeah.
I've never seen glycol contamination in one of those.
Yep.
Then we've got the what's the big Armada?
Yeah.
That thing still runs an RE5.
Yeah.
And I've never seen one of those do it. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
only
true.
been Pathfinders, Frontiers comes up.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Nissans, but it actually happens to all manufacturers. There's just some vehicles that are highlighted.
I've caught Mercedes.
Mercedes,
did it,
Ford.
Yeah, we've had probably one of every one at some point in time had some.
The
some
Mercedes are weird because they're hard to spot. When you're looking at it,
Yeah.
it does not. You're looking at the transmission fluid, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
But as soon as you do that glycol test on it, boom, there it is, lights
Yeah,
up
yeah.
purple.
Well, and you'll notice one thing that I check on every one of my checkouts. I look over at the coolant bottle. I check coolant
Yes,
level.
you do.
A coolant level with no external leaks.
The low coolant
I
level,
look
yeah.
over in the coolant bottle and it's 2 quarts low. It's down near the bottom of the bottle. I'm looking at the car. There's no leaks on this thing. One of the things that I always have to remember is, hey, you know what? That could be in that transmission, and I won't see it until the pan is off of it. And even then, I may not recognize it. So, really got to pay attention to that.
And like in the case of the Nissans, like the Xterras and the Pathfinders and stuff, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen.
It's when on the RE5 stuff.
So if you have a car like that has that issue, you can head it off. You can bypass it or
Sure.
replace it ahead of time. Something can save you some money. So little internet research doesn't hurt. Sometimes some of the information on the internet is wrong. You got to understand that. So some of it take with a grain of salt. I mean, we could be wrong.
Yep.
We're not, but we could be. So anyway, thanks for joining us on the Bumper to Bumper podcast. We'll see you next time. Well, hello, I'm Dave Riccio, your host of the Bumper to Bumper podcast, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you want one of your car questions to be answered on our podcast, tap the link in the description for a chance to have your question featured. And while you are there, we would love for you to like and subscribe to see more Bumper to Bumper podcasts in the future.